is that we are so desperate for our team to be good that we find things that are positive and we cling to them and we celebrate them in a way to hopefully foster success for this franchise and then in return us as fans. And so I don't think that's delusion. I think that's faith, and that's want, and that's desire, and that's like for good things. We're a fan. Our show is called Raiders Fan Radio because we're fans of this football team. So I want, and when I see good things, I'm gonna amplify good things. So that's not being delusional. That's being perfectly self-aware around what my lot is. Well, that doesn't make me delusional, Colin. And so shut your ass up. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And when you're speaking on things that you don't know about, then it makes you look like an idiot. And then the ultimate, I think, thing that he did was that he was evaluating coaches in the AFC West. And when it came to evaluating Antonio Pierce, he wasn't critical of his time in the job. He wasn't critical of
he talked about the bankruptcy.
He talked about his finances. And so you made a personal attack, a sports take. And that's some bullshit, punk ass things to do and say. And I just have zero respect for it, man. Here's what, and ultimately where something else I learned as well. And I'm glad that this happened because I learned something as well. My and your audience is minute compared to what someone like Colin Cowherd is. We have hundreds or maybe thousands of people listening to us. We don't have hundreds of thousands of people listening to us like he does. But yet every time I approach this microphone, and while I don't take myself too seriously, and I know you don't either, we just take our fandom seriously, and we can be irreverent at times and silly and all that. The idea that you don't have enough responsibility and a level of arrogance to go onto a microphone and spew shit at the audience that has faith in you or is a fan of yours, I think is completely, that level of arrogance and behavior. I can't wrap my brain around that. I can't do that math. Like it doesn't make sense to me because I love our fans. I know we don't even have fans. I just say our listeners. Because I'm a fan. I'm a fan. You're a fan. They're fans. We all fans together.
I'm a dude. So, he's a dude. That's a Nickelodeon Good Booger reference.
Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? But anyways, the point being though is that we're all fans in this thing, and so I would never want to say anything that I think would alienate or disparage or take advantage of someone that's choosing to put me in their headphones or in their car or wherever else that you're listening or watching this show on your TV or whatever. I would never do that. And so for me, for somebody that's a nobody and that's in the smallest of freaking realms when it comes to media, for me to have that awareness, and for someone like Colin who has hundreds of thousands or even millions of people in his audience to not have that awareness, sorry, zero respect. And this is, I brought it up last week on our show. I'm glad you brought it up this week on Mondays with Mike and Murf, and I'm glad to address it here. But I am no longer going to, my influence means nothing, but I'm not playing his comments on our show anymore. I ain't talking about him on our show anymore. And it's not just him. It's people like that. Done. I'm done with it. It fires me up in a negative way emotionally, so I don't want to give it any energy. And it's just bullshit. It's unfounded caca. Like it doesn't. It's nothing true about it. It's not funny. It's just like useless content.
I can agree with you. Again, the bankruptcy, as a fan, and not really a news commentator, I talked about the bankruptcy and I gave my opinion. And a lot of Raider Nation was heated that I did that. They're like, don't talk about his personal life. And I'm like, come on, man. I'm a Raider fan. I want to talk about it. I'm worried it might cause concern. They might take his house, his cars during the season, for publicity. But that's not what we're talking about. You're right. Colin Cowherd, that was a shitty move for him. But I didn't read the delusional quote, so my apologies on that. But here's the quote that I read talking about the carnival and why I actually think he said a correct statement. Not about the Antonio Pierce, about the delusional fans, but about the carnival. Here's the clip or the statement that I took a picture of the other day. He said, and I don't know what happened before or after, my apologies. A lot of good employees meaning the Raiders. You got a lot of good employees, but you couldn't do your best work as an employee because the management was a revolving door full of clowns. There's only so much you can do. That's the Raiders. The Raiders are that carnival that shows up and hosts it in your high school parking lot. I agree with that statement. I mean, it is us. Again, the fan statement besides the Antonio Pierce, I don't know. Is he wrong? I don't think he's wrong with that statement that I just read.
Here's the issue that I have with it is that it's low-hanging fruit. And when you have a team that's been unsuccessful in their win-loss column, which is not our case, really, if you look at the since Antonio Pierce has taken over this football team. So that is not true. It's not a carnival. But if you took like the history of the Raiders since we talked about that Super Bowl loss, yeah, there's been some carnival ass shit. When you look at Jamarcus Russell and you look at a lot of you look at Lane Kiffin marching freaking Sebastian Janikowski out for a 76-yard field goal. You look at the whole strip. You look at Hugh Jackson, trading for Carson Palmer and calling it the greatest trade in NFL history. So there are truths to that statement. My problem with it, and the reason I took offense to it, is that that's not what we are now. That this isn't Lane Kiffin. This isn't even stupid fattier Josh McDaniels. This isn't Art Shell 2.0. That's not what we're talking about here.
We don't know yet. I mean, it could happen.
God dang right we know, Mikey. No, I disagree. We do know. This team is led by a man that led the team to a winning record to close out, that restored pride in what it is to not only be a Raider on the field, but off the field. And for the first time in a very long time, the fans, the team, the front office, the coaching staff, everyone is on the same page. This thing is heading in a completely positive direction. So for Colin to make a comment like it's some goddamn carnival is a completely blind, inaccurate, ignorant ass fucking thing to say. It's not the truth.
I think he was talking past tense. I think he was technically talking past tense.
But that's not the spirit. The context of his conversation was not past tense because he was talking about us being delusional. Because
it's current. You're right.
Because he was saying that like, oh no, because they're this carnival and Raider fans are delusional, so they don't want to understand it or embrace it. Well, bullshit. I've understood plenty of times when we've been the carnival, but that's not what we are now. So don't make some fucking stupid statement like that, Colin Cowherd, and then not expect to get an adverse reaction from us Raider fans. That's what I'm trying to say, Mikey. Is that it's not about?
I get it.
Yeah, I get it, man. Like we've been funky as hell at times in the past, but that's not what we are now. Him calling out Mark Davis, telling him he's broke and bullshit. God dang, he's one of the most wealthy freaking owners now in terms of percentage in the league because he's not an oil tycoon or anything else. He's generated self-generating income through what he's done since he's been with the Raiders. And I know that your owner being rich isn't a win on the field, so I understand and can separate those two things. But the whole point of the Raiders are broke, that's such a dumb old ass, way in the past kind of thing to rely on. And that's what these guys in the national media do. They take old narratives and they just put it to the front so it gives them something to say. And then what do? They fire up us in the fan base and then get the clicks, get the freaking energy, get the reaction and all that shit. And that's what I'm saying. I'm done giving it that, Mikey. So it's when you start spewing shit, you start spewing nonsense. Listen, man, if this would have been a year and a half ago, I'd have said, yeah, well, you're right, Colin. Or even a year ago when we got fans screaming at Mark Davis and holding up signs in his face and fire McDaniels and all this stuff, I'd have agreed with them. Yeah, we were. But
you got to admit, it's still a clown show, at least up to when Antonio Pierce took over, which is still semi-recent.
Yeah, but that's not what the case is now. We had 9 weeks of football after Antonio Pierce took over.
You're right. But it could happen again. And we, as Raider fans, have to. We've had to deal with that for the latter part of 20-something years. So, for the positive Raider people like you, I love what you're saying. You're completely correct. Like Tony Shepard is saying, get used to Success Nation. It's coming. But there's Raider fans that are jaded like me that I'm like, I kind of understood his statement. It's still kind of recent. Even though we think we're not that way right now, We can be, and I hope we're not.
Here's
That's
the thing,
what
man.
I'm trying to say.
Here's the thing. It's easy to be a critic. You can be a critic of a lot of different things in life, and guess what? You're going to be right most of the time, especially when it comes to sports takes. You want to talk shit about the 32 teams in the NFL? Well, guess what? 31 out of 32, you're going to be right, because only one team wins the Super Bowl at the end of the year, right? So
there's only one team in the NFL, and that's the motherfucking Raiders.
No, well, that's true. But what my point being, though, is that only one team wins the Super Bowl every year. Only one team walks off with that Lombardi trophy. And so you can be critical of a lot of things, and you're going to be proven right based on a certain point of view, even, right? There you go, Obi-Wan. But like the whole idea behind that sentiment is that it's not hard to pick low-hanging fruit. It's not hard to go, like, how many times as Raider fans, everybody in the chat room, do you hear somebody new that you meet and they go, "Oh, you're a Raider fan, huh? Oh, Raiders kind of suck, huh?" Yeah, the Raiders suck. Easy. It's low-hanging fruit. It's stupid. Oh, you guys are villains. You guys are the bad guys. You guys are like, think about the low-hanging fruit that we get as commentary from Raider fans. It's frankly why I don't like to talk Raider football with a lot of people, like in the real life. And I don't mean this as I'm not talking about like at a tailgate or something like that where we're around a bunch of hardcore Raider fans, but I'm talking about in like the general public when you're in like the grocery store or whatever, or I'm at work or whatever, and someone wants to bring up talking about the Raiders. I don't want to talk to them because they don't know what they're talking about, because they don't have the level of investment that I do, that our listeners do, that you do, Mikey. And that's the same thing that goes for Colin Cowherd. He doesn't have the level of investment. And it's not even just him. It's so many members of the national media. They don't know what they're talking about. So it's frustrating as hell to me. I can't listen to it anymore. We got to be done.
Let's just end it with, "Hey, coward, you coward. F you," says Raider Nation. And that's a Murf quote.
Amen.
All right, everybody, on to another possible heated topic.
Can I pee?